What's up guys, it's me Jeremy. The patch 6.6 notes are out, and with every new patch brings us a whole bunch of brand new balance changes that are going to affect the meta. And with every new buff or nerf, there's always some hidden or indirect changes as a result. Just before we start, here are some of my favorite comments where I asked what your favorite cereal was. Today I want to know what's your favorite change from patch 6.6. As well, I've teamed up with ProGuides.com for the editing on this video. If you're interested in more traditional guides, they have a free trial that gets you full access, so you can check them out and decide for yourself if you like it or not. And if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, and if you don't, please hit that dislike. Anyways, let's get started. The first group of champions to receive an indirect buff on patch 6.6 are Assassins. This is happening for a few reasons. First off, the nerfs to Janna and Lulu. Both of those champions are fantastic counterpicks to any assassin, due to the crowd control and disengage that they provide in their kits. Lulu's nerf is pretty minor, but Janna's nerf is a little bit bigger since it did lower the crowd control duration on her ultimate. Both champions will still be strong counterpicks to assassins, but because of the nerfs, they're going to be played a little bit less, which means that you are more likely to face favorable champions when playing assassins now. The other reason for this indirect buff is a little bit less significant since most assassins are played in the mid lane, but for any of you top lane assassin players, the nerf to Titanic Hydra is a pretty helpful change since tanky bruiser kind of champions are really strong counterpicks versus assassins, because they're tanky enough to survive your burst but also deal enough damage to have kill pressure that maybe a tank wouldn't have. The next group of champions that received an indirect buff are warrior junglers, and to some extent tank junglers, but not really. This change as well is happening as a culmination of a few different nerfs. First off, we have the Runic Echoes nerf, which is kind of an interesting one. Ever since it came out, Runic Echoes hasn't really accomplished its goals in the sense that it's been a little bit too diverse, right? I mean, you got like tanks like Amumu building it, you got bruisers like Udyr, and then the more intended ones like Elise and Nidalee, but it's kind of become like this jack of all trades item, despite having this AP focus that has dominated the meta along with Devourer. And we've seen warrior and tank junglers struggle a bit to find their place ever since Runic Echoes came out. Okay, to be fair, they haven't been completely shafted from the meta by any means, but Runic Echoes definitely has been the superior jungle item. And since it's taking a really serious hit this patch, the warrior and tank junglers that were struggling a bit are going to get a boost up. As well, there were direct nerfs to Nidalee, Master Yi, and Shyvana on this patch, which again is going to be another nice boost to those types of junglers, since those champions were all pretty powerful and honestly just dominant junglers that controlled the meta, especially in solo queue, and so we'll be seeing them a lot less now. These indirect changes affect both types of junglers equally, but the thing is that the Xerath Portal nerf was a hit to tanks in any role, top jungle or support, but tank junglers were probably the most common champions to build that item on, so they are indirectly nerfed as a result. However, I do consider that to be an overall power increase. I think that the indirect buff is a little bit larger than the indirect nerf those tank junglers received from the Xerath Portal change. Next up, we're taking things up to the top lane, where the full damage top laners like Tryndamere and the AP top laners like Kayle and Ryze are both receiving indirect buffs. And I know that seems a little bit weird and oddly specific, but hear me out, because it's happening for a multitude of reasons, specifically the item nerfs. The nerf to Titanic Hydra is pretty significant, so the bruisers and brawlers are going to take a big hit because of that. That item was core on a lot of those kinds of champions, and a big part of their power was in part due to Titanic Hydra. So it's a well-deserved nerf that will affect a lot of champions and the top lane meta as a whole. As well, the nerf to Xerath Portal is a minor hit to the tank top laners who made effective use of that item to control the map while getting some really powerful stats too. And when you look at it, the bruisers and tanks actually cover a large variety of champions, so the full damage top laners and the AP top laners are essentially just all of the remaining top laners that were not affected by the item nerfs on this patch, since they just never build those items. And as a result, their opponents who are building those items are going to be a little bit weaker overall, so the AP and damage top laners will have an easier time finding success now. As well, both Quinn and Fiora received direct nerfs on this patch, and they were really tough matchups for almost any top laner, so that's a pretty big boost to pretty much everyone else too. In addition, there's also an indirect buff towards burst damage all-in oriented supports, so champions like Annie support and Zyra support especially as well as stuff like maybe Brand and Vel'Koz and such to some extent, but it definitely favors the supports that are trying to one-shot someone with a full combo that packs a big punch. And again, just like with the others, this is happening for a multitude of reasons. First off, we have the nerf to Kalista. Now this one's a little bit weird, but it actually makes a lot of sense. Kalista is one of the worst AD carry matchups for any burst damage support, and the reason why is actually because of her ultimate. With Kalista's ultimate always on hand, a burst damage support has pretty much zero kill power on the enemy support for the entire duration of the lane after level 6, which forces you into a very predictable laning style, as a lot of the time you can maybe start your snowball and get that crucial lead by surprising the enemy support when they're out of position, when they're expecting you to focus the AD carry. But since you have so much burst, you can just one-shot them instantly. However, versus a Kalista, you don't have that option because of her ultimate. However, since she is getting a nerf, the matchup will be a little bit easier and you'll see her being played a lot less now. As well, with the nerf to Janna, that's another bad matchup that's getting a step down, since Janna's disengage and shields does a lot to hurt the kill power of a burst damage combo. So again, she really wasn't the best matchup for those burst damage champions. And the third reason is actually the nerf to Xerath Portal, which was a potential pickup on tank supports. Tank supports again are a tough matchup because a lot of the times they're just too tanky to burst down with your combo. However, this factor is really minor since unlike the junglers and the top laners, Xerath Portal wasn't really that core on a tank support, or maybe it would get picked up super late in their build. Because Banner of Command honestly most of the time would be a better item for the team-wide utility because it builds out of Aegis, so it's unlikely that this will affect them that much, although it is worth mentioning though. As for the major things to look out for on this patch, the Titanic Hydra nerf is honestly really significant, and along with the Quinn and Fiora nerfs, the top lane meta will likely shift up a pretty decent amount, and if you played someone who built Titanic Hydra in the past, consider maybe changing up your build path or playing someone different. The Xerath Portal nerf is also kind of reasonable, but it's definitely still a strong item to control the map, and this change is definitely going to be less significant than the Titanic Hydra nerf. As well, the buffs to Kha'Zix, Echo, and Jace were pretty decent, so maybe look out for them or consider playing them yourself now. However, most of the direct changes to champions on this patch were pretty minor, but that doesn't mean they should go unnoticed. So if you want to check out the full patch notes, I'll have a link in the description if you haven't seen them already. And that's just about it. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you want. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.